Hello, I'm Dr. Tom, and I'd like to welcome you to another Friday update and another spectacular week we've had inside the world of Gen. As a matter of fact, I'd like to congratulate once again the new members and the continued growth that we're seeing inside this club because of the sponsoring that's going on, the sponsorship that has accelerated over the last several months. And so once again, those of you who are brand new, congratulations. Those of you who are sponsoring people, congratulations to you as well. And the club thanks you because that is the true lifeblood and the growth of this club called the Global Information Network. Let me add, since there are so many new people, let me just add a point of clarification, if you would, about sponsorship. Because sponsorship is critically important. And what happens is that we have a Share Gen bonus program inside the club. Many of you may not even be aware of that. Maybe no one's even covered that with you yet, and that's okay. The reality is it does exist, and you can find it again on the website to find the particular details. And we've gone over it a number of times, but they're all on the website. The crux of that, the shortened version of that, the Cliff Note version of that, if you will, is that when you sponsor someone, you bring them into the club and you did the work to get them there. Whether you sent them your wish is your command, whether you referred them to listen to it online, whether you spoke to them in person, whether you know them personally, or whether they're halfway across the world, because it is a global network of people that we have inside this club. Therefore, you are to be rewarded for that for the length of time that they are in the club. It's really that simple. You see, that doesn't mean that that new person can't work with other people or can't be mentored by other people or can't go to other meetings. We encourage that you do so. So many people, the vast majority of the people in this club, do not live locally where their sponsor is, because of the internet and because of the way this club is communicated and because of its ability to share online. So that's not an unusual circumstance. And let me tell you why it's important, because so many people that are at a great distance, I mean, maybe you're continents away from the person who actually sponsored you into the club. We encourage you to go to your local chapter meetings, go to regional conferences, go to Super Saturdays, go to the meetings where other Gen people are so that you can begin to build relationships inside this club. That's what's important. You see, the relationships and the opportunities that are in front of you with the information and the people that we have inside this club are more important than who is the upline, who is the downline. What's important is that you get online so that you can get in line for some huge wins. That's how this club works. It's so beneficial to you in so many ways. That's the beauty of Gen. That's what happens. You see, if people are in fear or afraid to send their sponsored people to meetings and to events because there's this constant recruiting process that goes on to get them to switch downlines, then it breaks down the entire ethical aspect of this club. There are clubs where that happens. That's not Gen. That's not what we do. That doesn't fit into our code of conduct. So you can feel secure and you can feel safe and you can be sure that by sending people that you have sponsored into this club to local chapter meetings, to regional conferences, to Super Saturday events, to our major events, that's exactly how they'll be handled. That's the type of respect that they will receive. Now, that also leads us to the mentorship part of that. You see, mentorship is a completely different concept, and I'm going to cover that in just a moment about how that fits and how that works inside the Global Information Network. Before we get into that, I do want to tell you about a couple of different benefits that we have that are coming up. Some of those wins that I talked about. It's about getting in line for the wins. And this Friday, we have another Financial Friday, an update from Lee Kinney. And Lee does a spectacular job in this week's edition, talking about risk and talking about, even more importantly, risk tolerance. Please go to that. Even if you're not at a stage in life where you want to do some investing, or even if you're a seasoned investor, it's great to review some of the fundamentals and maybe why you get nervous at certain times, or why you're anxious, or why it can move you out of that be happy now zone, that magical zone that Gen talks about so much and is taught throughout the Success Mastery course. Lee does a marvelous job of putting those things in perspective for you, because risk tolerance is a huge key to investing, regardless of the types of investing that you do. He also makes another tip and touches on cryptocurrency this week. So please feel free to go online, watch that with Lee, if you will. Next, I will tell you that we have an upcoming August 1st, the date that we would have been in Vegas had there not have been this global interruption. And so on that Saturday at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, we're going to go live with a video conference to bring you some great news, some great updates, some great training from several of your faculty members inside the world of Gen. And we'll be releasing those names in the upcoming weeks and days, but as we get there, as we get closer. I will tell you that there will also be some new content released at the end of that video conference that will be amazing, and you will be very happy with the words of wisdom, the trainings, the insights and information that people will be sharing with you. Your Gen brothers and sisters will be sharing with you on that Saturday, August 1st. Next, a couple of Super Saturdays coming up. September 26th at Flaming Farm in Connecticut. Registrations, thank you again. You can go on the website. You can register there. There's all the information about location and all of those things are listed on the website. Again, September 26th. October the 3rd, we will be having a Super Saturday at the Patnode compound in Canada. And Blaine and I went up there for a retreat, and I'm telling you, it is a marvelous, spectacular place for learning. For learning more about who you are and what makes you tick, and just being in that environment and that family is such a rewarding. It will be a win for you, no question about that. Last week on the Member Development Series, I talked some about books, and I mentioned the word mentor, and it falls right in line with with this week's messaging. Kevin referenced a mentor or an uncle. There are many different words that the mentorship aspect is covered by. Some people may refer to them as their advisors. Some of them may be a confidant. It may be your counselor. It may be your teacher. It may be a therapist. It may be a master in spiritual world. They may refer to you as a guru. They may refer to you as a swami or a maharishi. There are different terms that address this concept, and that is someone who has acquired skills and knowledge to share that with someone else. Now, you can be mentored by people in certain aspects of your life that may be outside of your vocation. It's different than an apprenticeship. A mentor will be able to share with you some wisdom about circumstance on where you are. And when you're looking for a mentor, when you're looking for guidance, when you're seeking out experience to shorten that curve, I mean, why spend 10 years learning something that someone can share with you in 10 minutes? I mean, it makes no sense, particularly in this day and age where you have access and availability of people by going online, by doing a Zoom call with them. I mean, it's not like you have to get in your car or get on a plane and travel and be face to face. In-person meetings are always best if you can have them. In this time, or due to location, you may not be able to. And so that's why we were so ahead of the curve inside Gen with our online trainings. And so the point is, select someone, it falls in line with, select someone who has what you want or desire and has been where you are. So there's some connectivity or some relatability there. Understand that the beauty of mentorship is to accelerate your growth. Now, there are two sides to the mentorship. There's the mentor and the mentee, and you must find a mutually beneficial relationship. And there are a couple of guidelines that I looked up for those of you who are not fortunate enough. Maybe you haven't yet established an uncle or a mentor or a confidant, if you will, someone who you can bounce ideas off of. Maybe it kind of moves into a mastermind kind of concept and group to help you grow. And I will tell you that in the world of ground rules, first of all is to set up some ground rules. What is expected? What will you do? What will they do? What is the purpose? What's the foundation? What's the premise upon which this relationship is built? Next, I would do a needs assessment, meaning what are the needs? What is someone looking for? Because maybe you would say, as a person they're approaching as a mentor, maybe you would say, that's really not my field of expertise. Let me recommend this person. Maybe you know someone, maybe they're inside the club, and you can refer them there for different advice or even additional advice. Maybe it's an area of their life that you're not a quote expert on, that you don't feel compelled or competent in giving them advice in that particular area. So it's a constantly fluid thing. And the next thing I would say would be determine mutual goals. What does each person get out of this relationship? Because that's the only way relationships work long term, is if both people get a win-win. The next thing I would say is establish a contact schedule, meaning what are the times that you could reach out? Barring, you may say, if it's an emergency, I'm here for you 24 hours a day. However, if it's not an emergency, these are the hours I would prefer you would contact me, because these are the hours where I do this. You see, for instance, in my schedule, there are certain times when I'm unavailable for a period of time. For instance, right now when I'm filming this, if people contact me, which it happens regularly, I will not be getting back to you for the next half an hour because I am in the middle of something else. And so just establish a schedule. Certain people are maybe early risers. Some people may be night owls. So find out what fits and establish that. You see, the more of this you do up front, the greater you will receive on the back end, the greater benefit you will receive on the back end of your relationship in mentorship. Next, I would say, as a mentor, is to first listen. Be a good listener. It's something that I learned in practice as patients would talk to me. I learned more in the consultation. I learned more by listening than I did by talking, than I did by teaching. So I would listen. I would then ask some questions, digging in, getting a little deeper, finding out specifically, because sometimes when someone asks something, it's not exactly what you hear. You see, it's never what's asked that's important in a question. It's what's heard. It's never what's asked. It's what's heard. And so listen, and then ask your questions back, so you make sure you're talking about the same thing, and then give your advice. Then give your suggestions. Next, I would suggest that let the person make their own decisions. You see, with that decision-making process comes growth. And comes a foundational building of who they actually are. You see, with that decision-making comes accountability and responsibility for your decisions. If you just tell them what to do, then that's different than allowing them to grow by making the decision. Now, you can present several different ideas to them. You can say, this would be my choice. You can obviously say, this is what I think is the most beneficial. But it's ultimately their decision. It's their life. It's their journey. It's their quest. It's their fulfillment of their destiny. So allow them to make decisions. You can buffer those decisions by giving advice, but let the decision be theirs. Next, I would say, be accountable to each other. If you say you're available, if you schedule a time, be there. If you schedule a Zoom call, be on the call. If you schedule a phone call, be on the call. If you have a time you're going to email each other back and forth, be accountable, be responsible, be respectful both ways in this relationship. Next, I would say, open doors for them. The beauty of having some experience. I know more people at 62 than I did at 22. There are people and there are directions that I can point people, and it's so gratifying to be able to recommend them. Maybe it's a financial question, and I can send them to a financial advisor. Maybe it's an investment question, and I can send them to an investment person. After I enjoy those kinds of things, and so first I may listen and say, well, let me decide what kind of person it is that you're actually looking for. I mean, as Lee was talking about in the Financial Friday, what's your risk tolerance? Because you do not want to recommend things that are too risky to people that can't stand that they cannot tolerate that risk. And all they can think about and all they can worry about is checking the stock price 27 times a day. I mean, they'll lose their job worrying about their stock because they've overinvested. They have too much risk. Their tolerance, whether it's too much risk or just an intolerance for that risk, it doesn't work. So you have to find that medium, and you have to have some wins and you have to have some losses, and you have to feel that adrenaline, and you have to learn about investing and what is it you're looking for? You know, some people, my investment strategy in the 60s is different than it was in the 30s, because I don't have another 40 years to say this is what this really interests me 40 years from now. I think I'm going to have my financial situation figured out by then. You see, I'm not looking for a 40-year plan at this point. Not that I'm planning on going away. It's just that my plan will be different over those 40 years than the 40 years from 20 to 60. So there is a timeline involved there that's affiliated with that risk tolerance. And then lastly, I would recommend that you, as the mentor, to check and see about your own bias and your own impulses, because we all have filters, and we all look through those filters, and we all see the world through those filters. Those filters can change, and those filters have changed. For those of you in the upper levels of Gen, to a person, you'll answer, you know, that's a true statement. Doc, I am a different person at level 7 than I was at level 1 or before I joined. And your biases, you learn discernment, and you learn some more objectivity, and you learn patience, and you learn the pause, and you learn to listen before you just go off chattering and speaking and espousing things that you may or may not know about. You see, there's an old phrase about never judge a book by its cover, and that's true for people as well. Sometimes your first impression, or sometimes what someone told you about someone as they referred them to you for assistance or help, may be very different than what you find once you get to know that person. Once you get to discover what makes that person tick, what drives that person, and what are their real goals? What are they looking for to fulfill their destiny? What are they looking for on their journey to discover who they are? Which is what this is about. It's the journey of life. It's never static. It's always changing. It's ever changing. And it will continue to change. Every minute, every day, every week, every month, and every year, as we move forward together as brothers and sisters in the Global Information Network. And Dr. Ted and Blaine and I are so proud to be a part of that journey with you and for you. We believe in you. Congratulations again on joining this club, and we look forward to seeing you at an upcoming event. I'm Dr. Tom. Have a spectacular week.